Welcome to Thrifty Garage. My name is Carson. Today I'm going to do another episode in my How to Start a Business series. Today's content will be on the moving process. So when it came to the moving process, we had a couple different options to choose from. You've got several different moving truck company rentals that you can choose from. We had a 4-bedroom house, so we planned on getting a 26-foot moving truck, and looking at starting a landscape or lawn care business, I also considered the thought of buying a trailer. So I was weighing the pros and cons between a moving truck and a trailer. It looked like a trailer would be about $10,000 if I were to get a truck for the company. Initially I was looking at about a $20,000 truck, so we're looking at $30,000. But that was money that would have to be spent regardless. And looking at the moving truck company side, the cost is going to be about starting out about $800, and that's for about a week rental. And then we knew that there might be a lapse of time, so we were planning on about a 2-week span of needing that moving truck, using it as temporary storage for about a week, and then moving it for a couple days across country. So weighed the pros and cons. About a 2-week rental for that truck ends up being about $1,500 bucks. I believe it's about an extra $100 a day at most companies we looked at. So let's kind of break down both sides. With the trailer, purchasing a trailer outright, one advantage of going that method is that we could get it on a payment plan. So I could have bought it and then had that cost pushed out over the next couple of years and have to slowly make those payments. So there is some advantage to that. Same with the truck, that's a potential option, and those are costs that needed to incur anyways. So the real advantage of going that method is just making the purchase once. If we ended up needing it 3 or 4 weeks, then it wouldn't have cost us any extra at all. So that was also a huge concern if we were having to wait in a moving truck. The last thing I wanted to do was rent a storage space and have to unload a moving truck and then reload a moving truck and rent another moving truck to move it to our final destination. So lots of pros and cons there. And then onto the moving truck service, we looked at 3 different options. We looked at U-Haul, Penske, and budget truck rentals. U-Haul is actually the cheapest. However, looking at their prices, they only do a 5-day rental, so it makes sense why they would be the cheapest. Once you start adding more days, they basically become the same as the other options. Penske and budget were pretty in line with each other on pricing, and so from there it came down to the liability. So my wife's family has used Penske in the past and has had very good results with that. They've actually had a truck break down and the company came out and moved their stuff over for them, and everything was pretty flawless there. So they got really good service on that end, and I've heard dissimilar stories from U-Haul. So from that standpoint, I was a little bit more confident in Penske, thinking that they were going to take better care of me if something happened. So another thing to consider is, and I'm going to leave budget out of these because I don't really know a lot about budget. The most I know about is between U-Haul and Penske. So Penske is a more commercial grade truck. The truck that we were looking at was an international truck, which is a more full-size commercial vehicle. And then the U-Hauls are like the F450, F550 options. So they're more of a pickup truck that's got heavier duty suspension on them with a box fitted to them. Both advertised heated and AC'd cab, as well as a lot of their radios had like a USB port in them or an audio cable that you could stream music. That's another thing we could talk about in the future. But looking at those 2 different options, there was that. And then there is also the location, so pickup and drop off locations. Leaving Utah, we had plenty of options for all 3 brands. However, where we were moving to, there was not a budget truck rental place close by. I think the returning address was an hour or 2 away, so that would have been some additional discomfort once we arrived to our new destination. Whereas there were 2 or 3 U-Haul locations and 1 Penske location where we were moving. So that also played into consideration, which is a big reason that we didn't consider budget at all past looking at their pricing. So we ended up deciding to go with Penske. We liked the bigger truck. It is a little bit higher loading deck, which is difficult, but it worked out. We chose the Penske because the lower cost up front, trying to work the logistics of purchasing a truck and trailer in that last 2-week window of selling our home, quitting my job, all of those other things became very logistically difficult to purchase a trailer and a truck and get that all lined up with the same time of closing our house. So we decided to do the Penske truck. It was a long ramp to load up that. It was a very tall loading deck. The truck drove pretty well. The trucks are governed out about, I was told by Penske, 67 to 70 miles an hour, and what I was getting was about 70 miles an hour on the interstates. So I was riding along with a lot of the semi trucks. I was getting passed by some semis, and the biggest thing was that truck was pretty gutless on hills. So even though it was a more industrial, commercial sized vehicle, it still was a very heavy load. I don't know exactly what the weight on our truck was. We were probably a little past 2/3, maybe 3/4 full capacity, floor to roof. And the weight capacity on those trucks is 10,000 pounds. So I'm sure we were 5,000 to 7,500 pounds if I were to guess. So it was a heavy truck going up hills. It slowed down, it would lug up the hills. One thing I can speak to is Penske's emergency roadside service. So we did have an incident. We loaded up the truck and we moved it about 30 minutes away to our in-laws, and I didn't notice anything wrong with the drive up there, no check engine lights or anything that I can remember. But when we departed and headed out, the check engine light was on, and there was also a DEF, or diesel exhaust fluid light on, which is for the diesel emissions, and that light was on. And as we continued to drive, it made me a little bit nervous. So one of our stops going across country, I called the roadside assistance, more or less just to let them know that that was there and make sure that I was following their course of action so that I wasn't stranded on the side of the road. They told me to keep going, that everything was fine. Kept going a few hours longer, and then the light started to flash. And being mechanically inclined, I know that once a check engine light starts to flash, that's when things start to go wrong. The engine goes into limp mode, it wants to protect itself. So it made me even more nervous. I made sure to talk to them, and meanwhile they actually called several times to follow up with me and make sure that things were good, which was very nice. So we kept pushing, and they told us a location to push to. So we pushed to that location, and we showed up. I turned off the truck, went inside, and then they came out with their keys and they started it up and pulled around the shop. And later the mechanic told me that truck at that moment went into limp mode. So that key cycle of me turning it off and that mechanic turning it back on was the last straw, and that truck was only able to go 5 miles an hour at that point in time, according to that mechanic. If we had made any roadside stops at a rest stop or anything like that, there's a good chance that we would have basically been stranded there and had to wait for likely a multiple hour towing job. To have a tow truck come get us would have taken an hour or two, and then haul us to the nearby repair shop. So we were very fortunate and lucky to get into that shop, and I do believe that a lot of that's due to my willingness to call the roadside assistance beforehand and make sure that we were en route to a location that could repair that. So we took it to that shop, and it was actually there several hours, but they were able to get our same truck back on the road and not have to move us into a different truck. It was an issue with the diesel exhaust fluid system. That emission system is not intended to be sitting around. It's intended to be driven on a daily basis, and there's a good chance that Penske truck had been sitting, and then that injector got clogged and wasn't able to inject that fluid into the exhaust to reduce the emissions. So the sensor in this exhaust system, and these are all my assumptions, the sensor in that exhaust system was unable to sense reduced emissions, so that's why the check engine light came on. As far as the truck mechanically being good, it was all fine. It was simply just an emission system doing its thing and unable to meet its emission regulations, so that the truck kind of slowed itself down. So we were able to stop there. My wife had a friend who lived in the area, so we were able to go to dinner with her. So that was a nice ability to stop and let them take care of the truck. And then from there on out, the truck was flawless. No check engine lights or anything like that. The truck always started up well, and really reliable. I can't speak to what U-Haul would have been, but I do think that big truck was very well suited for our move. So we were able to finish driving across country and get it to our destination. Well, thanks for watching this episode on my Thrifty Garage How to Start a Business series. If you please subscribe so you can follow more tips and tricks as I've started into this process. And please like and comment as well. Thanks for watching Thrifty Garage.